Hello and welcome to the Punish for Protecting live broadcast with your host, Francesca Amato, national expert in the Americans with Disabilities Act, domestic violence and child abuse advocate, best-selling author, and founder of Punish for Protecting Incorporated. We welcome all of our viewers listening on Facebook via Punish for Protecting News and the CPS News Network. If you're watching on YouTube at Punish No More and Free to Protect, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Now, without further ado, here is your host, Francesca Amato.
Hello and welcome everyone. That last picture you saw on the screen, wow, that is something that is really powerful, and that is one of the main topics to our story today. We have some show for you today. It's the Eeriness of Erie County, New York foster care. Oh my goodness. I have been I'm going to be covering a lot more on this story today. We have the Jodi Landon and her Jodi Graesser and her son Landon, their story today, and what they've been through. And we also have another special surprise guest that's coming out. Two special surprise guests that will be coming out to help us tell this story today. But this is the Eeriness of Erie County, New York foster care. And I want to tell you again, my name is Francesca Amato. I'm your host, and I'm the owner and founder of Punish for Protecting Incorporated. And we have help for you with our organization. Those of you that are faithful followers of my programming and the work that we do to save families all over this country. So I want to welcome my viewers on all the different channels that you're watching from. I know that it's CPS News Network, my channel, Punish No More, and Free to Protect. There's also another Facebook page called Close the Camps. Close the Camps. I want to tell people to please go on over there and be sure to follow that page as well. So today I have actually three guests, but my primary guests here are Jodi Landon, and regarding her son, Jodi Graesser and her son Landon. I'm gonna have a lot to show you up on the screen today, and I thank you guys for liking, subscribing, hitting the bell icon over on YouTube, and liking and sharing this video. I also want to tell my followers, I really appreciate you guys, and I want to tell you and let you know, for the bottom of my heart, thank you for following, and thank you for your comments, and thank you for your prayers for the families and so on, and for us as an organization and the work that we do. I am in Facebook jail. I know that I've been saying this on my last few broadcasts. I believe I have about 16 days left. There's been no reason for it, and they've Facebook jailed me in every Facebook page that I have. Because I went live. Just when I went live off of my main page that's been maxed out on followers from day one, they don't like this word getting out. So what I'd like to say to you is, I do apologize. I see your comments. I read your comments. I read them all. I go back and read them in between my very tough schedule. And I want to thank you guys, because I cannot comment back to you, and I feel really bad about that. I want you to know I do see them. There's times I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to respond to this person or these people, and I can't right now. So I'm sorry. I am pretty interactive with people, because it's about all of us making a difference in this world, and that's why we do what we do. But without further ado, I'm going to bring out my next guest. She's a mother and an author, Jodi Graesser. And here she is. Please welcome my guest, Jodi Graesser. And this is who this story is about today. Hi, Jodi, and welcome today.
Hi, thank you very much, Francesca, for having me.
Well, it's really good to have you, Jodi. We had Jodi on we had you on when we did the Dr. Nathanson story, and we brought out some of his victims. Obviously, we didn't bring out all of his victims. Jodi, you're very aware of those victims. You and your son Landon being two of his victims. So she did get to tell a little bit about her story, but we're going to start from the beginning. And I'm going to try to share some stuff on the screen here where you can kind of speak on it. But Jodi is a federally qualified, disabled, federally protected class member, and so is her son Landon. And I believe I knew you right when this happened, back in 2019. Jodi was beginning to homeschool Landon with special needs. And so Jodi, why don't you start there, and then I will ask you some further questions, just so we can kind of give the audience a little basis to why Erie County is so eerie.
So, I was in special needs classes. I have an IEP diploma. When I was in school, I graduated with that. And so the law states that with me being classified disabled and learning disabled, because that's why I had the special education, that the school's responsibility, or the state, was to make sure that they helped me to make out a provable homeschool plan, that my son could be homeschooled, because I was forced to homeschool my son, because they would not accept his qualified medical exemptions from Ronald D. Whitmont. He's a holistic medical doctor in Rhinebeck, New York. And the other doctor of the school decided that both of his medical exemptions were invalid. One of the reasons they said was that he couldn't check all of the boxes that for all of the vaccines on the paperwork. Now, when I called the Department of Health at one point, and I talked to this lady, Tanya, she said nowhere on the paper does it say that he could not check all of the boxes on that paper. So then we tried to bring it up in court later, when I was taken to family court, and my son was violently removed from my home on December 2nd, 2019, lawlessly. Judge Lavallo said, let the two doctors fight it over in Supreme Court. And I'm thinking to myself, like, then why don't you like drop this case and move it to Supreme Court? Because obviously this is not your go-to for this case. That's how I looked at it. So the school refused to help me to make a approvable homeschool plan for my son. They refused to accept my two medical exemptions for my son. And the court never respected any of that as well. And so when they came to take my son, they said, I said, well, what are you doing? I said, I thought this was about educational neglect. And Heather, the DSS worker of Kelsey Skipper, CPS, said it started with educational neglect, but it turned into something more. And so it's been very hard to even tell this story over and over every time I have to. It's just more and more traumatizing, because I have to keep reliving this violent abuse of these people that clearly don't care about children. With my case being 2+ years going on, it's evident, for actions speak louder than words, that they clearly don't care about the safety of children.
So let's go back, just for the sake of the audience. We'll go back. I'm sorry, for the sake of the audience. So we're just laying a foundation. We're going to build into this story and what's happened and what Erie County has done, and we're going to show you some of the players. But initially, Jodi was in the process of helping her special needs son with, and by then, 2019, this kind of just got on the edge of COMO, starting to violate the rights of families and forcing vaccines. Okay, because religious exemptions were more than enough, okay, until he did that. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, I help people all the time prepare for homeschool. Homeschool is amazing. Homeschool children do fare better in life, are more moral, are more stable. There's no question. They don't have to succumb to, especially today's peer pressure, which is worse than it's pretty much ever been. I help them with the IHIP. I help them with the what do you call it? I can't think of it right now. My dogs are flipping out. I help them with the initial letter that they need for school to start. I show them what accredited homeschool programs there are. I show families that there's massive socialization and homeschool groups out there all over our state and other states. Okay, it doesn't matter what state you're in. And I can tell you from experience and knowing of educators who are actual licensed teachers that have homeschooled their own children that I know for years on end. Their children are happily married today. They come from happy homes. They're not, like they try to make it out like homeschool, you'll never socialize. Homeschool, that would be like saying you don't socialize in the summer. Okay, it's nonsense. They make up anything they want to make up. Homeschool kids don't get the grades and all this, and in reality these kids own businesses. They're wanted, they're in demand in the better colleges because of their moral fiber, because of their work ethic, because they learn how to learn versus what to learn. In other words, they can think for themselves. Okay, they're not programmed, these children. And I don't believe, I believe in God, so I believe children to have a moral compass like we all should. We wouldn't be in this mess if this country had a moral compass, if our governors had a moral compass, if the judges had a moral compass. We know they don't. So we want to raise healthy, happy, adjusted children. It doesn't mean that you keep them away from all the world. I'm not saying that, of course, but I know that it's better for children if they learn what's right and wrong from home. And then when they get that temptation or peer pressure, they know how to turn away from it versus when they're in school and everybody's doing it. So we all got to do it too. Okay. And homeschool kids are not the everybody's doing it. Things have changed so much now because the government has infiltrated and overreached so much. But Jodi was just at that cusp at that point in time. And then all hell broke loose with Landon. And we're going to tell the story. Jodi and I and our two other guests are going to tell the story as to what's been happening. And I know it's traumatizing, Jodi. I know it is. And I really commend you. You're not just here right now helping your son, but you're helping other victims that are watching. You're helping other children that are in need. I mean, this traumatizes me every day. So I fully get it. And I'm berated and I'm inundated with families begging for help 24/7, 25/8. So I know what that feels like. And I've had to live it myself, so I really commend you, and I'm really thankful to have you on to tell the story today. So from this point, Jodi, why don't you go ahead and I'll put some pictures up too and tell us what happened.
So we had a school meeting at some point, and Todd Vierick was a disability advocacy center that was supposed to back me up in my rights and respect them and definitely go to bat for me. He ended up saying to me at one point that he would help me to bring someone in physically into my home and help me make out a provable homeschool plan for my son by the fall 2019 school year. And he never did. He never followed through. And Lori Murray, talked to him directly, and he admitted to her that, he was in my home. There was no neglect. He can't believe that they did what they did to take my son. If he would have just followed through, they never would have took my son. So on this school meeting, there was Brendan Giglio, Landon's Hillside Health Homes worker, which you will see, Fran puts up it later that he was Landon's protection worker. I was told by Sierra Connors when she was his case manager at one point. And also he was brought in by CPS 2 years ago because my son put his shirt in his lampshade, which, I have a neighbor that the kid did the same thing. CPS didn't come and take their kid away. But I safely got this out of, my home and everything. And so CPS comes in a couple days before Christmas and says that we'll leave you alone as long as you put Brendan Giglio in your home. So I was forced to comply, and I did. And he even said, I was set up because I was bucking the system. The vaccinations for 2019 was to take children who parents wouldn't vaccinate their kids. My kid was not unvaccinated. If they would have looked at the vaccine record, then they would have seen that he had all of his vaccines to go to school. He just needed the chickenpox vaccine. We ended up doing a chickenpox titers blood test because I was told that if he had the chickenpox titers in his blood, then he could go to school because he had the chickenpox titers in his blood. I wasn't trying to homeschool. I want to make that clear to people because it's a very difficult thing to homeschool. And my son already had special education services right there, in the public school setting. And because my son is so severely disabled through, banging his head against the floor when he was 2 years old, the more vaccines he got, eventually he stopped speaking words to me. He would have a piece of paper fall on the ground. He would scream for 2 hours at a time. Even Connors told me at one point that they saw that where Landon would have something fall out like a piece of paper and he would scream for like hours about it. He would cry for like from the time you put him to bed at 3 months old until 4 years old. He would cry till 7 o'clock in the morning nonstop. Like, just imagine what that could do to someone's psyche to sit there and deal with this kind of level of special needs child. And everybody has a different diagnosis of this child, but no one wants to respect your medical rights or your parental rights, these people, I talked to a lawyer at one point, I believe her name was Miranda. She said to me that regardless if you vaccinate your child or not, they have to give him another location to deal with this homeschooling. I also found out later that there's two different kind of IHIP plans. There's one for special needs children and there's ones for regular children. I was never told that by any of the Springville district, which was what I was dealing with. Kathy Townsend, she's a crook. She sat there and she lied in court about me and said that, I said I couldn't homeschool. I didn't say I couldn't homeschool. I said I needed help with a professional IHIP plan maker. And even Mary from Health Homes, after my son was taken, I asked her to have Danita, one of the foster care placements, to be able to homeschool my son. And she said, she's not a professional. She doesn't know how to make an IHIP plan. And I'm like, I'm special needs and I'm expected to have done it. So that's not even logical. So that was challenging. So it all comes down to, I wouldn't vaccinate my son with the chickenpox and they would not sit there and they would not negotiate with me. They would not tell me that, they literally threw paperwork at me and said, here, figure it out. As long as you're not going to give them the chickenpox vaccine, we're not going to help you with anything. You're on your own. And that's completely against the law because I am classified disabled, and having that IEP diploma that I graduated with in school in 2006, I was, by law protected for these people to follow the law and help me to make out a provable homeschool plan. So they didn't do that. And Heather called me up one day for DSS and said, the school is taking you to family court. Never told me she was coming to take my kid. She literally just said that they're coming, the school is taking you to family court for educational neglect. And she said, my boss already said they have, I have to fill out this paperwork. And I said, God will destroy you. And from that moment, they went from a 1 through 25 allegations of crap to 1 through 27 amended on the day that Judge Salzler that you see on the screen, the blonde lady, on December 4th, 2019 was the first they took him on December 2nd, 2019. I was in court on December 4th, 2019. And then Judge Lavallo for the remand hearing was December 6th, 2019. What's interesting about Judge Lavallo or Judge Salzler is that my appeal lawyer for the neglect, I guess is what you'd call it, for the neglect finding that they said that they won by default. I was at the ER because of this constant trauma. I've had a lot of physical manifestations of physical ailments of, lessening my health. But what's interesting is that with Judge Salzler, they never recorded that date. And there was a bunch of different dates that my appeal attorney, Charles Greenberg, said that they recorded that they never recorded those particular dates. And one of them was with Judge Margaret Salzer. So unfortunately, Judge Lavallo is not on the screen currently. That's the first judge.
But I did have Judge Lavallo on the screen. The other judge, I don't have the photo. It wasn't workable to put on the screen, but you said her name. So
yeah. So what happened was that was the remand hearing. So Kelsey Skipper lied also in the remand hearing. She's CPS. She said I never returned any of the work that for the school. I was working directly with Mr. Diedrich, Landon's guidance counselor, and I was also dealing with a social worker, Brianna. They came twice to bring and send back work to the school. So he even said in a text message, which my HARP worker, Christine, through this whole thing from Spectrum Human Services, my other HARP worker, Jordana, that's now taken her place, the level of proof of my innocence and the fact that these people have not accepted any of my witnesses. They haven't accepted any of my documentations, the plans, the action plans, the thought that I've put into, with my son having these many disabilities and the problems he's had in forced foster care, where none of his problems have been fixed. And in the action plans that I have for my son to fix those problems have been all ignored.
So can you see, you can see the screen, right, Jodi?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Okay. So let's kind of go backtrack for the audience. I do want to say something about a comment that I agree with. Leonard Garcia put, this is a little sidestep away from the subject here, but he said, I'm going to give you guys all heads up. He discovered that there's some social workers. I want to correct you on something. First of all, I work with social workers, licensed master's degree social workers, actually have master's degrees and forensic areas. And a lot of them are awesome people who hate the system and are fighting against this horrible system. And they're highly intelligent, went to school for this, and are under the most sincere scrutiny and ethics. Okay. So I want to just kind of clear something up, Leonard. I agree with what you're saying, but I want to just clear something up. A lot of people call these CPS caseworkers social workers. These CPS caseworkers call themselves social workers. They are not social workers. They don't even have a bachelor's, let alone a master's in social work. Okay, they'll call themselves also CPS case social workers or CPS social case workers. They'll do a play on words to fool you to think that they are social workers. Okay, watch out for that. It's actually not true. It's part of their corruption. But you're correct when you say that they are trying to claim that they are parents fighting for their kids. I already know this. I've already had to fight this in the social media world. Why I'm in Facebook jail again, because I expose all this stuff. And you are correct. That's why I tell people, be careful in the family rights movement, or so-called family rights movement. Okay. Be sure to be around reputable people with long-standing that win cases that are actually fighting for you. Okay. We don't say we're going to win every case, punished for protecting, but Jodi knows very well. Jodi knows the work I put in for her alone, let alone countless others. She'll tell you. What do you call it? We're here to fight for until you get your kids back. Okay. But also you can see my success rate. You can go to my YouTube channel and you can see testimony after testimony after testimony. And I'm one to speak of. Okay. But you are 100% right, Leonard. Just be careful because, and I'm not saying that there's not corrupt social workers, because there are. Okay. But just be careful because there are wonderful social workers out there that hate the system as much as everybody. And, anyone that's not blacklisted pretty much, are. But yes, I watch out for the family rights movement, the fathers' rights movement. Okay. I'm not against dads. They won't help any good fathers. Remember that. They only are there to help abusers. And watch out for those organizations or those movements or whatever you want to call them. Now, going back to Jodi, and I will put up more of your comments, and I do appreciate your comments. How did they come to your house based on this ridiculous? I mean, this is something that could have been remedied, Jodi. This is something that could have been fixed. And everything would have been good. Okay. And instead you have a thriving special needs child who loves you, who's a lot of work. You clarified the kid's a lot of work. He wasn't having these issues until the vaccinations. And then all of a sudden he was having these issues. Medical doctor, they did not honor the medical doctor, which they should have. Okay. He's still an MD, holistic or not. He's still an MD. Holistic is better. And next thing you know, what happens? You're at home, you're sitting at home one day calmly with your mom. And I'm going to bring Lori Murray out in a minute here. Go ahead. What happens?
So this is interesting. So I was actually on the phone with my son's medical insurance because we just, through this whole time of trying to get my son back into school with his special education team, I was also going to many medical doctors for my son, trying to figure out what is wrong with this child. Why is he still peeing all over my house? Why is he still having these pooping accidents at 8 years old? What is wrong with this child? And honestly, I suspected that he's autistic because my cousin Miranda, she is autistic and they have the same language patterns. And I'm sorry, but with a child that is got the same language patterns and then your child having the same language patterns, they don't hang out together. There is something there. I also watch documentaries of different vaccine injured children and how their child would bang their head against the wall. And, all of these different things. And I just sat there and was like, that is my son. You know what I mean? And it was very challenging. And I said, I want to get to the bottom of this because I want to be able to first get to what is the actual proper diagnosis of my son and where can I be respected in my medical rights and my freedoms and parentally to be able to take care of my son as I see fit, not with the government or any other entity that claims to be an authority that's importance over you and your children, which in my opinion is not, but me. Why do I have my parental rights that say that when you have sole custody of your child or legal custody, which I found out taking another parenting training and getting a certificate that was not accepted, but was forced to take. It said that you have the education, medical, and religious decision rights for your child. Lori Murray, you'll hear she talked to the Advocacy Center with Todd Vierick and his team, Lynette and such. They sat there and said nothing about my case is normal, that a disabled person has the right to decide for their child and themselves what medical procedures and treatments and interventions they want to have for themselves. Things like that. And
so Jodi, 1 second though, just because you're a little bit ahead for the audience's sake to understand. Before we even get to there with these medical procedures, and you ended up in court for some reason, and you ended up in court because what happened at your house? Who came banging at your door at your house, and what happened?
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, honey. I just don't want them to lose what happened in secret. And then Lori's out, but I'm gonna ask you first.
So there was a law enforcement that had his foot up against the glass of our door, and about to shatter it with his foot if my mom wouldn't have opened up the door. Well, I was on the phone.
Hang on. So he just walked up and put his foot there, or did he knock on the door and say who he was? Did he just show up and all of a sudden you're sitting there at the TV watching television?
Well, I mean, I was sitting there on the phone with the medical insurance trying to get my son a neurology appointment because his allergist said that if he is vaccine injured, that's where you would start as a neurologist. So I was actually dumbfounded, very shocked through this whole experience. I mean, I was literally trying to get what needed to be done for my son. And there was a knock on the door. I don't really 100% remember all of it because, I mean, it was so traumatizing. I couldn't even sleep on my couch for 6 months. But, my mom could probably explain a little bit more. Mom, do you want to, say something real quick?
Hi, I'm Lori Landon's grandma.
Hi, Lori. Nice to see you.
Sorry, I wasn't planning on talking. I apologize. I'm in my robe. Landon had just gotten out of the shower, and
your daughter just put you right on the spot there, didn't she? So
I look horrible. And we were ready to take him to get a haircut, and something told me all of a sudden, look out the window, and I did, and I seen a bunch of cop cars and a police dog and policemen started coming towards our door. And I could tell automatically it was CPS because they were here periodically before. And I came downstairs and I opened up the door a little bit, and our cat was in a cat tree at that time by the door. And the cop said, "You need to let us in." And it, more or less forcefully, his boot foot, he was going to open up the door. So I opened up the door. Our cat almost got out, and I said, "Would you mind being careful so our cat don't get out? Would you shut the door?" He goes, "Shut the door yourself." So I shut the door, and the CPS worker and the cop followed me up to Landon's room, and she ordered me to pack a bag. And Landon actually helped me pack the bag, and he looked at me, and he said, "I'm scared." And I said, "Remember, Landon, Mommy, I love you." And we walked back down the stairs, or I got him dressed upstairs. I begged to let him get dressed because it was winter, and finally they agreed. And she said, hurry up. So I did. And then we came down the stairs, and I had to get Landon's socks and boots on and his coat, and I zipped it. And she goes, "Do you have a booster seat?" And I said, "Yeah, it's out in our storage unit."
Try to be a little louder, Mom.
"Go get it." So I went outside, and I opened up the door, and I'm trying to find the booster seat. And we have a ledge with a step that goes off with our situation out in front. And I went to reach for the booster seat, and I had it. And she opened up the screen door, and she was standing there. And I went to hand it to her, and she yanked it out of my arm, and I almost fell off of our step and fell into the cement. And it jarred my arm. And they more or less rushed Landon. Luckily, Jodi got to hug him and say goodbye. I wasn't allowed to. And I watched as they put him in the car between cops and a police dog. And that's what happened.
So what happened also was that, we asked them, where are you taking my son? Because she said we were only taking him overnight. And so they said, we don't know yet. And when I talked to Brendan Giglio, my son's, Hillside Health Homes worker that CPS put into my home, that you later see that he admits that they set me up. That I didn't.
I have that. Let me put that on the screen for you. Let me just find that where he says that. Gosh, I do believe we have so much here. I do believe it's that right there. Yes, yep. Brendan Giglio Land's home. What does it say? Brendan Giglio Land's home. What's the seat?
Well, I mean, I didn't know he was his protection worker at the time, and he told me he was his care coordinator, is what he actually called himself.
Oh, okay, care coordinator. It says, "I am not denying anything you said." He said, "You and Guy did do the best you could." You guys did. You guys did the best you could providing for him. Okay.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that she decided to fight the county. Oh, meaning Jodi decided to fight the county in the beginning, and they came after her harder. We see the end result. The county and state go after people hard if it's about a topic that is high on their priority list. And vaccinations were at the top of their list in 2019. And regardless, though, this is a violation. Let me go ahead and introduce Lori Murray. I just want to bring her out if you guys can. And I think, Lori, you might not just go back a little bit in your chair because I think you're a little too close. And I'm going to have you go ahead. And Lori, why don't you go ahead? Thank you so much for being on today.
And Lori, we can't hear you. You have to unmute.
And if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself. Lori Murray is a registered nurse, and she's been with this case since day one. And Lori has a lot to say about this. So go ahead, Lori. Thank you for being here today.
I don't even live near Jodi. I live about 3 hours east of her in upstate New York, and she's in Springville near Buffalo. But I met her. I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a recovering vaccine injured person and have a lot of genetic issues in my family. I was a school nurse for 9 years. I know what these children deal with, what the parents of disabled and vaccine injured children deal with. And it's a much ignored situation. And the parents are often blamed for the behaviors, the disabilities, the shortfalls, the incontinence, the acting out, the lack of progress in education. the parents are blamed for these things, and yet they're doing the best they can, trying to give the child and themselves a decent life that they've been robbed of by medical injuries caused by man-made toxic vaccines. And then
And
they're
Lori,
given
Lori,
medicine.
and you're an RN. And Lori, how long have you been an RN? And also, didn't you also work in the schools as a nurse?
Yes, I was a school nurse for 9 years, and we had probably the biggest. It's a rural school. We had one of the biggest special ed departments that I've ever seen. And and also vaccines were the biggest item on the to-do list for school nurses every year. They were starting to track, the state and the government were starting to track that everybody was caught up, and that was our main push. Well, I accepted the hepatitis B vaccine series of 3 and a flu shot at the beginning of my in 1994-95 school year, a few years in, at the encouragement of the School Nurses Association. And I became very disabled. I know exactly, it was immediate. I didn't know what happened to me, and neither do these parents of these injured babies, toddlers, teenagers. But I know all of the injuries and disabilities that ruin their lives emotionally and physically, financially, socially, whatever. And so for 9 years I worked there.
Seems
And
like Lori, is it just me, guys, or is Lori having bad Wi-Fi? Are we losing Lori? It's kind of hard.
Can you not hear me?
I'm hearing her clearly on my end.
Keep going. It could be me. Every once in a while, I lost you a couple times, Jodi, too.
I'll raise my sound.
Really, it's okay. You're good, she said.
Okay.
This is,
Can you hear me now? So
I heard most of you, but there was a couple of times it kind of seemed like the Wi-Fi
my
went
cat,
out.
my cute kitty keeps wanting to jump up and step on all
my
the
dog
keys.
was doing the same thing. My dog was trying to sit on my lap the whole time. They're like children.
Anyway,
so Lori, this is fascinating because you are an RN, and you said how many years were you an RN?
I graduated in 81 or 82 as an RN.
Yeah. So and then you worked in the school system.
Camps. I've worked in the labor and delivery, and I've seen use of reports when women had babies in the hospital. We would, as nurses, we thought we were helping out by making referrals for special help in the county nurses to go check on this mom or family, baby, or whatever. We thought we were helping. What it does is it unleashes this powerful system that never gives the family privacy or credit for what they are doing. They aren't helping. They are tracking and watching for something wrong that they can swoop in, and it's a money-making scheme. The more people that they send in as helps to the family, the less control the family has of everything, their child, their education, their how they want to parent, what religion or not that they want to use to raise their child, if they want to homeschool or not. I mean, they are looking at everything, and the parents.
And this is exactly what we're fighting for, Lori. Like this is invasion of privacy. It's invasion of private health information. It's invasion of discrimination. I mean, the list just goes on. ADA rights violations, and that's why we're forcing them in New York State right now. And once we get them where we need them now, we'll get it across the entire country.
Another thing that people, when I met Jodi, it was just like maybe a month after Landon was taken. We were both out on a Facebook vaccine injured website or Facebook group, and which I belong to a lot of them. I mean, I know lots and lots of families across the nation who have lost children to death or severe disability or some mild, but or themselves have been harmed, or even their teenagers or missionaries go out on missions, get vaccines, and then end up having to come back so disabled they can't even complete their religious mission. But I met her just after online, just after New Year's of 2020, and I just felt compelled to make a personal contact with her. We ended up chatting and then talking on the phone that very night, and And I said, well, you know, you're so passionate, and there's something that just attracted me to you. Were you or one of your children injured? And we're strangers at that point. And at that point, she tells me that they took her son for, and they've had him. She told me from the very beginning, and I could see how traumatized she was, and she needed an advocate. And as a nurse, I feel like that's the most important thing we can do, is to advocate for the needs and the rights of our patients, whatever age they are.
I thank you so much. I have to cut you for just a quick second because we have a commercial break that we are a little bit late for. I'm going to be bringing Jodi back out. I want you to stay, and then I have another special guest. That's we got some story today, guys. So stay right there.
I would like to mention how weaponized, how CPS and the system uses other agencies to weaponize and help them obtain and keep children. And you saw that by just what Jodi said. But the UN Agenda 21 and 30 and all that, you know, it was 2010 to 2020, whether people realize it or not, was declared.
It's going to cut you, Lori. I don't want to do that. I want you to share this. This is very important information, but it's going to cut you, and I don't want that to happen.
Okay.
Oh.
Hi. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be speaking. I'm the only one that I can see. Just in case, I will continue to speak until I get direction from Francesca. But the year 20... Oh, good.
I got kicked off stream. How bizarre was that? Okay, so I didn't want to cut you in the middle of your sentence. So why don't you go ahead and complete that, and then I'm going to bring Jodi back out, and we have another special guest, and I want to talk more about Jodi being an author. So what's really amazing about Jodi, and make sure you guys mute in between. What's really amazing about Jodi is that she is a disabled author. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that too. But Lori, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
The year 2010 through 2020 was declared the decade of vaccines. So yes, Brendan Giglio was right. Jodi, unbeknownst to her, chose a very difficult time to stand up for her son's medical freedom and protecting his health, while trying to make sure that he gets the public education he was entitled to, with the 611 program and all the helps that he was supposed to be having there. And, you know, she was trying to protect him while, you know, obtaining his rights to an education, and was forced to, you know, the only alternative was to homeschool, and they blocked her on that too. I would like to say that she when I met her, I realized I was on every incoming and outgoing call, because she needed an advocate. She could not do this alone. She was so traumatized that even if the phone rang, she would go into a fit. I have PTSD from going through hell with the medical kidnappers and field with my husband, who had ALS for 7 years and was on trach and ventilator. They use these weaponized systems. They make false reports of child, you know, CPS, adult protective, anything. They use police to drag you away from. Now, this is just the beginning. And Jodi was exhausted already before he was ever taken, because she was trying to advocate for her son's rights. and protect him. I did. I knew that we had to. She told me right away about the threat of them vaccinating him. The Judge Lovallo had ordered 9 vaccines. 9 vaccines. He needed none of them. He was only missing chickenpox, and like that's not like the end of the world, you know. And so the very thing that Jodi was trying to protect him from, any more vaccines, and she had a medical exemption, 2 of them, from a very knowledgeable doctor who saw his disabilities, family history, genetics, all this, and said no more vaccines. But they trashed that, and they made I got the nurses at that were over the Connors facility, Family and Children's Center nurses. I sent them emails and letters and phone calls and sent them his medical, what his mom provided, his immunization records, and proved to them. And I said that I would testify against them someday if they were foolish enough to not protect him after seeing all of these, if they were to give him the vaccines. So they held off, and we thought we were okay. But they would call from Connors every couple of days and traumatize and terrorize Jodi and saying, where do you want us to get his vaccines? She didn't want vaccines. They did it.
He was already vaccine injured. I mean,
Yep.
he was already vaccine injured, and nobody wants to hear it. They want to, you can't talk about that.
Yep.
These are the things you can't talk about that we talk about.
It's a religion. It is a religion. In 2019, we saw New York State and also California the legislatures institute pharmaceutical medicine as the new state-imposed religion. And that's why they got rid of religious exemptions first and then medical, because we are medical heretics. We are religious heretics if we dare think differently. You know,
it's totally ridiculous. I'm going to bring Jodi back out with her.
One last thing that just keep in mind, everyone listening, that parents who are falsely accused, or even if they legitimately neglected or harmed their child, they have no rights. They have fewer rights than an accused murderer has. I have read court transcripts and stuff, and it is awful. I have heard the worst things said and threatened to Jodi. Her and her mom could not even mention the word coming home on phone conversations with her son, or they would threaten to end the call and end all visitations. And they just do. It's like a hostage situation. So it's horrible, and people do not understand the power of the system, and it has to be taken down.
And that's my goal, is to completely abolish this evil, wicked system with the help of everyone just coming together and doing this and helping us, help you, take it down. Jodi, okay, so I'm being bombarded with phone calls, and oh my goodness, I can't even believe this is happening every time I'm live. Okay, so Jodi, I'm going to put up on the screen here. Jodi, you are, and I'm going to just actually, thank you so much, Lori. I'll be bringing you back out, and I'll be bringing in our other guests. So stay put. Jodi, I'm going to show on the screen here, you went through a series of certificates and stuff. I'm going to show that too, but I want to talk about first here, the fact that you are a published author, and you are qualified disabled published author, federally protected class member, both you and your son, Landon. And so where are your books? I had brought them out, and where are they? What do we got here? We've got Graham, Lisa, and cousin Scarlett's Adventure Together at the Library. Is that one of your books?
So this is an interesting book. So I don't just teach my son how to make his own books and to teach him to, become an entrepreneur for his own future. But I also help other children do it as well. So this is one of the books of my neighbor's girls. Both her girls came to me. They knew that Landon made a bunch of books. I showed them along the way before he got taken, after he got taken, the new books I made while he's been in forced foster care with my son, trying to finish up what we started in some things. This book here is my youngest publisher of children. This child is Marley. She's my neighbor, and she's just amazing from what she's actually, improved upon being a child and with her own disabilities. And And so anyways, she made that book, and she's, I think, was like 6 or 7 when she made it. And her sister, Tegan, was the second book that you eventually will put up, or didn't, or I don't matter.
I have a book right now that says, "What Does Landon See Today?"
Oh,
By
yeah.
Jodi Graesser. What's that one?
So this book is interesting because this is a book that my son had homework from his school, and I actually expanded it into a book. So my son could be able to be excited about, more of his schoolwork if it was put in a book that he could have repetition for, to not, lose the retaining of the information, because that's why we took him to, summer school all those years. So he could retain that information. So that was a great book. The parenting book that you just saw, I actually volunteered for Love and Logic. There's a community called Love Inc. in my town. They suggested I do a Love and Logic parenting training and volunteer it. Brendan Giglio suggested that I do a bunch of these things. I explained to them a long time ago that I needed parenting training, that I wanted to improve my parenting training with my son because he's special needs. And there is so much to do with a child like this that I really needed a lot of assistance to do this. And I was really just looking for the right services to help me. And I thought they were on my side, but they very well are not. So
here's the hard part. So I want to put that up, and I know there's other books we showed in the Dr. Nathanson, broadcast that we did. And because of time, and I also want to bring the other guest out, I want to be able to talk about, you're mute. I want to be able to talk about, and this is the hard part, Jodi, and I'm sorry, but we need to talk about, and I'm going to show some pictures, some of the things that have happened to Landon. I want you to talk about, if you can do this kind of just like in almost like bullets, slowly, some of the things that have happened to Landon. Connors is one of them. And we're going to bring a guest out that dealt with Connors in a minute, just to kind of show how bad this is. But some of the things that have happened to Landon, and I'm only going to, you don't have to talk about these, but I'm just putting these up real quickly just for the sake of time. But you can see that there is certification after certification after certification for Jodi. She's taken all kinds of classes. She's taken all kinds of things that she's passed, parenting courses, all this kind of stuff. Nothing's helped her. Nothing that they made her do has helped her, as everybody knows. This right here, this was what was on our screen for the Eeriness of Erie County. This right here that you're looking at before Jodi talks about some of the horrors that have happened to her son and how many times he's been moved. This is a legal notice. This is a notice of liability against Judge Lavallo and all these county officials that have harmed her child and her. So they're all named in this. You can see this. This is public. If you'd like a copy, just email Jodi and message Jodi on Facebook or something, or you can message me and we will get you a full copy. This is public. This has been filed with the county of Buffalo. It is certified, authenticated, and it talks about all the abuse they did. And when this was served upon these people, they're going to be getting served again as a default demand soon. When this was served upon these people, Landon has been moved, I believe, 3 more times. And the reason I'm showing you this, and I'm going to have Jodi talk about this now, is because he's been moved since then. He's been moved, I think, 2 or 3 more times. More damages have happened to this little boy. This is Landon here, right here, with a black eye. Okay, this is not uncommon. Everybody knows about rashes, black eyes, bruises, and worse on children in general in foster care. And here's the hard part. This is the part that we have to talk about. We're going to bring another guest who suffered from Connors group home, where they try to put him back in right after we filed this, because he was in another foster home. Go ahead, Jodi. Please tell the audience now. I want you to tell them about the abuse and how many times he's been moved. And I'm going to put up this. I'm also going to put up the doctor. This doctor right here, Jodi. This is Dr. Amy D. DePasqua. Okay. Dr. Amy D. DePasqua, and you can talk about her too. Let me just move that so you can go ahead, and I'm going to give you full screen on this one. Go ahead, Jodi. So remember, Jodi, you're just going to talk about how many times he's been moved to your recollection and all the things that have happened to him.
So Landon got moved from Connors. There's two different group homes that are two different houses there. There's the Gaines and then the Fitz house. Then he was moved to Sam and Kim's, which is a foster care facility. Then he was moved to Danita's, which is another foster care facility. Then he was moved to OLV, another residential treatment center like Connors, just better. Then he was moved to Randolph New Directions. He was moved to two different places at that place, the Meadows and some other place. Then he was moved to the Bryants and then back to Connors again. And now he's at the Gaines house. So who knows if he'll be moved to the Fitz house anytime soon. So I mean, how many times I just, named that off. I'm not real good with math. And like I said, this whole thing is very traumatizing to me. It's absolutely evil, in my opinion, that these people would allow my child to be knowingly abused. Shanique Nibbs, DSS, my son Landon told you, and Lori Murray was there to witness it. Besides some other people, that my son was abused at Connors, that his black eye was because a kid beat him up there. Remind you that my son is also Caucasian. He is not African American, and the majority of the foster care industry in Buffalo is African American. My son also has cultural identity issues because of this forced, disgusting foster care prison for children without bars. My son also got ringworm while he was at Danita's. I found it out during a visitation with my son. My son said his elbow was itching, and I checked. And this girl, Lene at Berkshire Farms, she even said that you can't fix a broken system, and that's why she was quitting the foster care industry because of my case. That was ringworm. I immediately at that visit said, let's call the doctor. Let's make sure that Landon gets immediately to the doctors. I mean, how long has this been going on? How do you not know that this has been going on? I mean, this just doesn't make any sense. My kid has not had these problems while he was at home. He also got HPV when he was at Connors. I was told by Dr. Judy Mikovich that's what it was, that he had a wart on the bottom of his foot. And again, I told Lene, later, I said, you need to contact the nurse and find out what this is exactly for sure. And then you need to immediately get him medicated cream. See, the system tries to act like I'm anti-government and that I am totally against Western medicine altogether. And that's not true. I believe there's a time and place for it, and that's my choice to decide when. And they don't care about that. They want it their way or no way. They want it their paid doctors. Who cares about what mine say? And there's Trump's mind every time because they follow this big pharma religion. In my personal opinion, that's what I do believe it is because of how strongly they abuse people for it.
Can I just say something, Jodi? I'm so proud of you every time you talk. I mean, and I want my followers to just like hear what I'm saying from my heart. I know Jodi over 2 years, right? Well over. And it's just amazing because, and I say this to encourage other people. She is an author. She's a disabled learning disability author with a disabled child. And she's going through all of this. And listen to this woman. I don't even know if you realize how amazing you are. Listen to her. And she's saying, we have a right to our own medical doctors. And it's, we have a right. It's not about what they want and who they want. They want the ones that are going to just follow their agenda. And she's not saying anything. She's highly intelligent. Okay. You can be learning disabled and be highly intelligent. And look at what she's accomplishing in the middle of trauma. So that's something to be really proud of in the middle of all of this. But also for those of you that are watching, maybe you have a learning disability. Maybe you have some kind of a disability. And there's people that have like a disability where maybe, there's something wrong with their legs, but then they run a marathon. Well, this is no different than that. These are emotional and or educational learning disabilities. And you can succeed and be very successful.
You've completely cut out. I cannot hear you. Frozen, Fran. I don't know if you can hear me at all.
I was being played. I'm being played with. My internet's being played with. But I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit, Jodi. I do appreciate that. Talk a little bit about Connors, because I'm bringing out my next guest right now, and
So,
I'm going to bring him onto the screen. Lori's still in the back room right now. We're going to bring her back out too. I just don't want to be too confusing on the screen. This is Jesse Carson Ladd. Hi, Jesse. Before you say anything, Jesse, Jodi's going to say, just Connors has been absolutely violently bad, and that's why we're bringing you out. So, Jesse, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your disability, and talk about Connors.
Right now or after?
No,
Jodi?
right now. I'm sorry, right now.
Okay, hi. My name is Jesse Carson Ladd. Sorry, I'm kind of being put on the spot. I have autism, PTSD from Connors, and lots of other things. But so yeah, I have autism, PTSD, ADHD, and yeah.
And what happened at Connors when you were there as a little kid?
What didn't happen? I mean, like, do you want me to start from the beginning, or?
Yes. Go ahead and tell us straight up what's happened. What happened when you were there? How old were you, and what did they do to you? What happened there?
Okay, so I have lots of stories, but I'm not sure how much time we have. But let's see. So it started. I'm just gonna tell a little bit before Connors. I was at a place called EPC, a Myra Psychiatric Center, and that was a horrible place at its own. But then I was happy because you can have like electronics there that weren't theirs. You get shots in your butt, not at Connors, but at EPC. So yeah, I was kind of happy to be leaving that horrible place. Until lots of things started happening. So, let's see. The first day I got there, I got my electronics back, so I was happy. It was around Christmas time. I'm not sure if this is the kids' fault or it's probably both the kids and the staff's fault, but I had made presents for the staff because I was so happy at the time. And they were opened multiple times, no matter how many times I put them underneath the tree. And then, let's see what else. That's not really abuse, but still, I wanted to put that out there.
Well, it kind of shows the negligence of the staff,
yeah.
But go ahead.
And the staff didn't really care. Let's see, I'm pretty sure I got lice there because one time, everyone's heads were completely shaved, including mine.
Did you suffer any severe abuse in there? Anything terrifying?
Oh yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So one time, sorry, I just gotta get this straight.
You're fine.
Hold on, I'm trying to think. I get nervous when I'm talking to other people.
Do you want Jodi to?
Oh no! I want to do it. I want to do it myself. I'm just trying to think of how to say it. So one time, I was eating lunch at a different. There's the main Connors building, and then there's a place where you eat lunch. So I was at the place where you eat lunch, down the main building. And then there was this woman, or I wasn't doing exactly what they say because, I need to be their slave or whatever. But, so yeah, I wasn't doing exactly what they said. I was eating, and so they kind of dragged me out and led me to where I presume, I kind of hope actually, because otherwise they would have, or they should have checked the cameras, but, well, there was no cameras, I'm guessing. And
did they literally drag you?
I can't exactly remember, but they put, all I remember is that they put me into a place where there was no cameras. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm being held up like on the wall, or my feet were barely on the ground, and I was being choked and like, oh, relax, you're not. And this woman was like, oh, relax, you're not choking. I was like, I wanted to be like, what do you mean I'm not choking? I'm choking. I know how I feel, and I know what you're doing, but I couldn't really speak, so I was like, and then all of a sudden this guy comes by. I remember it was a guy. I think it was either a kid or a guy, staff member, but it was a teen. Not a teen, but like in his 20s. So it was probably a staff member now I think about it. But he walked by and the woman noticed, and then she let me go, and I kind of ran. I had physical marks, like they weren't like the black eye that Len got, but like it wasn't that noticeable, but you could tell that that I had been choked. Sorry, I don't know why my mic keeps getting muted. And so, but I kept saying, no, she choked me. She choked me. Like, no, I never didn't choke you. I don't know what you're talking about. And so,
Jesse, Jesse, how old were you at that time when you were being choked?
when I was at Connors, I was at there between maybe 7, like late 7. So, but I want to say 8 or 9. I was there at 8 to 9 years old. I think almost 10.
And how often did you see your family?
Oh, that's the thing. Unlike Lori and Landon, which I'm very grateful that she has, that Landon has such a great person to protect him. I didn't have a family at the time, so I didn't really have anyone to stick up for me, besides myself. So, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, by the time I kept saying, and they're like, "Oh, you want to prove that you were choked? We'll call a doctor." Doctor didn't come for I think for a week, and by the time the doctor came, all my bruises were gone, and all I had was myself. And they're like, "Well, there's no proof, so."
So they made the doctor come way late so they could like kind of put it on the record that they had a doctor come and you weren't bruised at the time. Jodi, I want to put this up on the screen. Thank you so much, Jesse. Stay right there. I'm going to put this up on the screen, Jodi. This is another book that you help with. Actually, let me just do this because I think it'll be clearer for people to see. Jodi, can you go ahead and talk about that book right there, if you don't mind? What is that?
So this is actually Jesse's horror story about Connors and a little bit of his CEP psychiatric place that he was talking about with Elmire that needs to also be shut down. So I was on Google reviews at one point for Connors, and I saw this kid at the time. I thought he was a kid at least. And he was talking about his experience, a little bit about Connors, but like you knew that there was something seriously wrong, but he didn't go into real detail. Unfortunately, I didn't screenshot our that because they took it down, which is also very weird. But I asked God, I said, God, please get me in touch with this guy. At the time, I believe he called himself Cody. And within days, I found him on YouTube, and, I prayed that, because, he would get back to me. I asked God at the time. He literally, he talked to me, and he didn't have to, you know what I mean? He didn't know me from John and the Fourth Quartet, but he ended up telling me after he told me his story about Connors. I told him about my son's story, about what he told me, that, he was threatened to be beaten if he misbehaved by Mr. McCain. That's why he didn't pee on the registers until he got to Fitz's house, because at the time he was at the Gaines house. And these are all things my son has done at home. So, I mean, I'm not the problem. You know what I mean? This is my son's disabilities. So all these different things that happened, my son, asked, for me to help him to escape Connors at one point. He talked to me about he was going to create a dummy. I mean, Lori Murray can contest to this. She heard the recording. The same recording, Mr. Corey at the staff there was threatening to kill his kid David because he broke his favorite pen. And so, I mean, when they try to say in court that I, tried to kidnap my kid out of Connors or whatever, spoke about it or whatever, something stupid, that doesn't make any sense because in the same recording, those two stories happened. So that's insane. But, they allowed my son to watch movies like The Damn Sharks, horror movies such as Chucky, The Boogeyman, where cops kill people, movies with The Rock. They allowed my son watch BET, which is an African-American, very sexually explicit type of channel with, drugs, violence, sex, things like that. They allowed my son to watch, violent video games and play violent video games. I mean, there was just so much about this disgusting place. And then even while we were through this experience before Landon got taken, moved to Sam and Kim's, the new foster place, there was a friend of mine that had their kid there, and he kept walking, is what she called it, off of the property. And when asked why, he said to his mom, because the staff won't stop hitting me there. And so when I confronted Kevin, the director there, and I said, it's your responsibility to make sure these kids do not go off of this property. And he said, we don't have a secure building. We can't help it if they're in the yard and they just decide to, leave the property. Well, one time after my son got, removed from Connors the first time, this kid found a gun and pointed at somebody, and they're not taking responsibility. They're blaming that poor child for their negligence of not watching that child properly. That is disgusting. You are paid to do your job, and you do not do your job right. My son was sexually assaulted at Connors. This kid tried to force kiss my son, I was told. And this other kid, older kid, had to stop it. And when I confronted the lady staff about it, she tried to make it out to be it's not her fault. She can't watch the kids 24/7. She was attending this other kid over here. I mean, it's just disgusting. Like, just story after story. They allowed my son to play dodgeball after he had a concussion because he was slammed on their floor there. I mean, this place needs to be shut down immediately. It's absolutely disgusting. My son told me that Miss Gabby and Miss Lacey take the kids in the bathroom and beat their asses. He told me that.
Did Landon admit that in front of a mediator or a supervised visit? Landon only speaks in front of supervised visitors, a mediator.
No, at the time I was able to talk to him at Connors, and I was able to record all of our, not all
when
of
you
our
went in.
conversations, but
I remember. Okay,
most of our conversations. Yeah. Because this is the thing. I have a right to record in New York State, and I don't have to ask permission. I don't have to tell you I'm recording. That's the great thing about at least New York that's there. One thing they're not saying you're not allowed to do is you can't record court recordings, which is crock because
that's because they're hiding. That's because it's open courts for people to come and publicly view. So why not record? That's just part of their sneaky corruption. I want to go back to Jesse real quick here. Jesse, did you suffer from any beatings in there by staff members other than the choking? Did you suffer at any time? Did you feel really uncomfortable at night, maybe when you went to go to sleep? I want to know about that.
Well,
hold on. I just lost him. Hold on, Jesse. Hold on, Jesse. We're having some tech issues. Hang on, Jesse. I was trying to expand you onto the screen, and I knocked you out. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. So let's see. So at Connors, let's see. Besides the choking incident, I didn't really like most of the staff. Not everyone there is complete garbage, but at least at the time that I was there. But most of them, especially the higher ups, were. But I was really autistic at the time. Sorry, I'm just recovering from COVID, so.
You're doing good, Jesse. And
thank you.
So basically you really weren't treated with any love and respect while you were there.
No, and to answer your question, I wasn't really scared. Well, depends. I completely forgot. Yeah, so there was two staff members, couldn't stand them because like one of them, let's see, would they would the one time they would lock me in a room. Sorry. They locked me in a room. Well, not locked me in a room. The door was open, but they said if you leave, you couldn't that I'd be punished, without TV. So I stayed in there, and once I was starting to calm down, he's like, "Oh no, you're calming down. Oh no, can't have that." So what he did was he put on his own music or whatever, and he made it so loud. I think that's why I can't stand like when people are in cars and they have like their music blasting, because they get PTSD, kind of almost like what happened here. But he put the music up so high, and every time I'd scream, he's like, every time you scream, I'm gonna make it louder because I can't hear the music, even though it's deafening. And the speakers were in there, not on the outside.
That's
But,
so abusive because you
yeah.
have autism.
Yeah, so he just kept raising it until I don't even remember what happened. I just ended up leaving one. I think I just ended up leaving no matter the punishment.
So your punishment was what were you being punished for? I mean, I'm sorry. What did you do that would cause them to put you in the room and tell you not to come out? What were you doing wrong, like to them?
I don't really remember, but I don't think it was anything that even if I beat someone up, I don't think they should have done that.
So, but I mean, do you recall yourself ever beating anyone up?
Oh no. Well,
I'm saying.
Well, no, I remember being upset, but I don't think I ever beat anyone up because even though I'm 6'3" now, I was a very small kid, so I couldn't really beat up anyone whether I wanted to or not.
Well, and I'm so sorry that you went through all of this. Jodi, do you remember anything else that you want to talk about for Jesse's sake that you recall that he went through?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at one point he told me that they said they were going to give him ice cream, and instead they gave him blood work and never gave him ice cream. Well, I also want to let you know that with children with autism and children with special needs, and I don't really 100% know the diagnoses of my son. I mean, Dr. Whitmont said that he was limited evidence of ASD, and then through our phone consult, he said he is high functioning autistic. But I want to tell you something that's super important is that kids that have these problems, they have issues with their ears. So it's hard for them to experience loud noises, and Landon will cover his ears, when things are too loud. Jesse's did the same thing. So to sit there and say, to torture a child, like that, where you're sitting there and you're making this loud music be hurting their ears is just absolutely torturous. I mean, I don't.
Well, that's why I'm so upset about it, because that's exactly right. They're super sensitive, and this is just abuse. I mean, it's clear cut. All of it is clear cut abuse. I want to bring Lori Murray back out because we do have to wrap up this program today. So I want to bring registered nurse Lori Murray back out. Lori, is there anything that you know about Jesse's case that you want to elaborate on a little bit? Anything further with Jodi and Landon's before we close today? You are muted. Lori, you are still muted.
Okay, sorry. So I was a witness on phone calls with Jodi, and I would hear everything that was going on. I would watch the videos and stuff with her, and when she would get a call, she gave them my number, so I heard everything. And when Landon was abused, injured, they would call her and say, Landon fell down, bumped his nose, did something. He was bleeding, and you can hear them in the background. Don't let him bleed all over the place. Get him in the shower. And then they would cut her off, and they wouldn't let her talk when he had his face slammed on the floor. They lied and said that he didn't. they took him to the doctor. No, they took him to the emergency room. And then they sent him to school the next day and didn't tell the nurse at that school, because Jodi and I called to make sure that they had, how was he? And she said, why didn't you call and let me know? Because he's been playing gym and nobody's been watching him or anything. And we're like, remember, he's in the custody of CPS. Mind you, these children that are taken only get to see their families once a week for an hour. And so I'm a mandated reporter, is what I was saying when I wasn't when I was muted still. And so hearing all of these horrendous things that are going on, him saying during visits, why didn't I get any supper? I didn't get any food. Why? And they would ignore him. They would purposely, they would like purposely torture his mom and grandma and Landon by the things that they did and did not do, withholding meals, with letting his belongings get broken, his Christmas present cat that was like a replacement for not being able to be with his real cat and his real family, rubbed in the mud, dunked in the toilet, thrown away, all of his art materials. He was suffering not only sensory overload from, yelling and screaming, and during voice visits or video visits when he couldn't have a personal visit from his family. They would talk in the background and distract him. Kids don't, with auditory processing and stuff, they cannot focus on and enjoy the visit with their family. And why should they? They should be with their families 24/7, not 1 hour a week for over 2 years or a month even. It's horrendous. These kids are being tortured and treated like political prisoners, or like terrorists in a foreign country. And they're not allowed, the parents are not allowed to visit or to say anything about coming home, to control anything. And Jodi was not given callbacks, and she'd have to worry for like 4 days in a row. Like, is he okay or is he not okay? And I want to just go back and say, in the beginning, when I met her, the very first thing, just think about this, people. Connors calls Jodi, the mom, and says, Landon needs to have dental surgery at O'Shea Hospital on all 4 of his molars, because he has, cavities in all of them. And Jodi was really new in the situation. He had just been taken. And she said, whoa, he has his own dentist. So luckily they complied, and they picked up mom and took her and Landon to his own special dentist, because he's special needs and needs somebody special. And the dentist looked at his teeth and said, he doesn't need any fillings. He doesn't have any cavities in his molars. He only has that one little spot that, we already talked about before. As long as you have him floss, it'll keep it at bay until he loses that baby tooth. So what the hell were they going to do to him up in O'Shea Hospital? There is all of these affiliated medical practitioners, businesses, and people waiting for their money to house them in foster care and, whatever. All of these practitioners that are affiliated or, paid off by the state. And they don't tell the truth. They do not do anything for on behalf of the child or the parent. It's always they do the bidding of the state. That's how he ended up getting mass vaccinated. I call that medical assault. And instead of just in Landon even told them, the doctor at the pediatrician's office in Buffalo, I'm not supposed to have the shots. They could hurt me. And they weren't content. Connors and DSS weren't content with just doing the deed. No, they had to call Jodi, knowing that she was helpless and had no power to stop them. They call her and wake her up and say, oh, Landon's going to have his shots at the pediatricians now. They told her where, and you can be on the phone while he has it. Really? And she called me, and for the longest time I had the recording of her in total meltdown and torture and suffering, that they were doing this to her child and she couldn't stop them. Why did they do this? It's to torture them. And so I made a very detailed, I made 2 reports, but one very, very detailed with lots and lots of injuries and deprivations, neglect. I mean, he was urine smelled. I mean, he has incontinence problems at night, that his mom and grandma always kept him nice and clean. It's not easy to take care of a child that still has those issues way beyond the years when you thought they'd be potty trained. But some kids grow up and wear helmets and are in diapers for their life because they're so severely injured. But luckily, Landon's not that bad. But but he wasn't given meals. He wasn't allowed to do his talents, like he's an artist, and he couldn't see his pets. He couldn't see his friends. He couldn't do anything. They tell Jodi that there's no lock on the door of the building at Connors. So, and he's the only one on the first floor. I mean, what kind of psychological trauma is that to have taken a child unjustly and accuse the parent falsely of she's crazy and delusional for telling the truth about the crazy laws and her medical rights for her son, her religious rights to raise her child how she wants. Nothing that she says is counted as worthwhile, and she wasn't even allowed. I've seen in this case, I'm still waiting in family court to be used as a witness. I helped type up a rebuttal. I know this case inside and out. It is so abusive, lying, neglectful, and incentivized. It's sickening. And she has not been allowed one piece of evidence written, no witnesses on her behalf.
Lori, sorry, Lori. You no, it's okay. You've seen the forensics work that I've done, right? Have you seen the forensic ADA, Americans with Disability Act I've supplied, and nothing like this it's barbarically sick. We are having to wrap it up. I mean, your information is invaluable. I recommend that everybody goes back to the beginning. I'm going to talk to Jesse more at another time, because obviously this is Jodi's story, but there's a lot there. And there's all kinds of other victims in Erie County. There's tons. I mean, there's victims all over the country. But Jodi, if you could please, honey, I want you to, I know, you get to talk to, obviously you speak to your son and so on, but if you could please, and Jesse, I thank you so much for, being on the show today, and Lori, but Jodi, if you could just look into the camera, and I want you to talk to your son. I want you to tell your son whatever you want to say to your son. I know this is hard, honey. But you've been such a trooper and such a fighter, but I really want this world to see what they're doing to these families. This is part of what we need to get out there. We need to fight harder together. I mean, you got experts here today, people that support you, people that stand with you. Jodi, go ahead and please talk to Landon.
Oh, Landon, Mommy loves you so much. And we didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't follow the law. And if they would have, you never would have been taken. And I've been fighting every single second for you. I don't sleep very good. I've gotten cancer out of this. And the thing is that I can't even tell you that because it could be used against me, which is so torturous to have to experience all that. And every single day we're still trying to get you back. We're trying to make the law be followed. We're trying to get your rights be respected, that this whole thing be stopping. And we just need you to keep understanding that we are not stopping, that you have to keep fighting for you to come back to us just as hard as we are for you. I mean, I've contacted President Trump of the United States before to beg him not to allow you to be vaccinated when you were. I tried contacting the commissioner of CPS, all kinds of different people. Nobody cared, Landon. I did everything. I would sit there and I would run freaking to the post office and have my heart being run out of my chest, freaking to sit there and be able to get the proper paperwork to the post office, hoping that somebody might give a crap and you come home because they'll follow the law. So I mean, there's just so much, Landon, but you have to keep telling your truth. You have to keep saying how you feel. You have to keep saying you want to come home if you want to. You have to say, I want someone to be on my side and listen to what I feel and what I think and how I believe and listen to you and everything you've gone through. I've begged these people to give you ADA avocation. They just ignore. They don't do anything. And I don't know what's going on with you and Connors right now, and it breaks my heart, but I don't know what to do. So, also I want to tell the people that are listening out there, if you are a victim of Connors, there's also a sexual lawsuit that's going on from back so many years ago. This guy's 40 and now has said that the Connors staff in the past sexually abused him. That is in itself should be not you should not be putting kids in there. But if you are a victim of Connors, speak out to Francesca Amato. See what you can do to get your story told. Write a book, KDP, Amazon. That's how I learned to be able to do my books. And, or any other foster care facility. If you are a person that is in the system and is getting paid to destroy families and children for a profit, you should be ashamed to be breathing on this planet. And I wholeheartedly believe you should have to go to Mars. You do not belong on planet Earth. Planet Earth is about peace and happiness. That is what it's supposed to be. It's about integrity. It's supposed to be morals. None of what you stand for. You have no integrity. You have no honor. You have no right to be living here. You should be ashamed to call yourself a human being. And I don't even think you are. I think that you're an evil, evil, evil entity that is just here. And you just, I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, I'm just so upset that these people have done this to my family. 2+ years. I have to change my last name because of these people ruined my maiden name. I have to sit there and I have to change, the holidays that I used to have with my son and create all new holidays because you ruined all my holidays. I had to sit there and I had to go through a cancer experience. Tom Green, a comedian, he says that he's so grateful that, people that have cancer, it's, to be living after that. It's not a gift to live with you're still in torture every fucking day. And I'm sorry that I swore, but this is seriously so traumatizing. I live and breathe this shit every day. They harass me on the weekends. I mean, it's disgusting how they do this to these people, and it should not be allowed to do it in America or worldwide, period. Why do we have these rights if they're not respected?
Thank you, Jodi. Thank you so much. And I feel your passion and I feel your pain, and I'm here for you. And Jodi, I'm glad that you do have the circle of people that support you. We're here. We're just going to keep going until we get that little boy back home. So Jodi, thanks for telling your story today. Thanks for sharing this. I know that it's touched a lot of lives today. People are writing, that they're praying for you and your family and so on and so forth. I do appreciate your story today, Jodi. And I do believe that Landon will get to see this because he'll be out of the grips of their evilness, and they are evil. So Jodi, again, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Fran.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, guys, another tough story. As we know, here on Punished for Protecting, it's really quite sad. It's just really quite sad that we have to even keep telling these stories. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting. If you can support Punished for Protecting, so we can continue to help families like Jodi who don't have any money and don't have any help. And we do need the help. So there's ways that you can donate to Punished for Protecting. And I'm going to actually put that up on the screen here. Here we go, right here. This is in the ticker. Actually, let me see if I can get this up on something else where you can see it better. There you go. You would go to Cash App at the $ Free the Children. That would help me continue to help families that have no money to help. And we do not we really, I mean, seriously, out of the years that I've been doing this, if we've received 10 donations, we've received a lot. We've done huge events where it's cost us way more than we've received, way more. But these multi-trillion-dollar child trafficking nonprofit organizations, they get government grants and everything else. We don't get that. I have family after family after family, like Jodi, that I take for free because they don't have the money. They don't have the money. So the families that do pay doesn't even come close to making up for what the work that goes into this at all. Okay, but thank you for watching today, the eeriness of Erie County. We will have more of Jesse's story, and we will keep you updated with Jodi's story because, as you know, we did do the notice of liability, and there will be a default demand placed on them soon, and we will bring that live as well so that we can keep you all abreast to what we're doing. And it's our belief that we will be getting Landon home. So thank you for watching.